Please stand. I call this meeting of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation Board to order, and we will have our pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and please be seated. Please let the record show that board members are present with the exception of Deborah Mary. We wish her speedy recovery. She had a medical procedure, and so she's recuperating from that tonight, so she could not be here, and she wished she could, but again, she's recuperating from a medical procedure. Before we get started, never knew how many people were going to show up tonight. We have several. We just asked that my hearing isn't great, and so when we come to visitors' comments and somebody comes up, there is an X on the floor down there where you would stand on. That's a directional mic that will point at you. So face the mic and talk into the mic, but it sets away from you for safety reasons, and that way you won't come in actual contact with the mic itself. So we'll ask that you do that. We ask because I'm hard of hearing that just one person speak at a time. Please no cheers, jeers, and boos and hisses or anything like that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and we want to hear everybody's opinion tonight. So we ask that you be respectful of whoever the visitor is that may be speaking at the time. There has been some proposed changes to the reopening plan. There's been a lot of good information that's gone back and forth with parents and others since it was put out. So what I'd like to do before we get into the visitors' comments is turn it over to Dr. Sanders to go over any changes so that you're aware of that before, if you would like to speak, before you come up to speak. Dr. Sanders?
Sure. Good evening. It's good to see each and every one of you here tonight. Just one more thing about Matt Irwin, Mr. Irwin, our business manager. He will be calling you up. You signed in when you came in, and so he'll be calling you up. And when he does, just go over to the X and hopefully it picks you up, but speak up as much as you can. So I am wanting to share a change that we've made after very careful consideration, change to our RBB CSC reopening school plan. And you won't be surprised, it's around the topic of facial coverings. And the changes are these. Students and employees will be expected to wear facial covering throughout the school day. Students may remove their facial coverings only under the following circumstances: during breakfast and lunch, if students are social distanced as outlined in the IDOE health guidelines; during outdoor recess, if social distance as outlined in the IDOE health guidelines; or during a maximum 3 to 5 minute break, if as outlined in the IDOE health guidelines. Edgewood primary students may remove their facial coverings when they are in their seats with their desk shields in place. And EECC classroom procedures will be to wear facial coverings when unable to social distance. Situations may arise when additional or less PPE may be required for students and staff in the classrooms. Students and staff may choose to wear facial coverings at all times throughout the school day during the 2020-2021 school year. We just be, and I'll say this many times tonight, just be prepared for change. And when we go back to, it seems like ages ago, we go back to the beginning of March, and we were just thinking we were going to be out for 2 weeks. From that day forward, RBB has done a very good job of creating the plans for the situation at hand, but also preparing for changes down the road. And so that this is a part of this plan. So the RBB administrative team is making this recommendation for the following reasons. The health issues of students and staff, as well as their families. As I've heard from families, I heard from staff, many have unusual and really delicate issues related to health that would put them at risk, and that was a very important factor in our consideration. We're making this recommendation out of the consideration and support of our classroom teachers. They are the ones that are in the classroom every day in the trenches, and we want to support them, and that was a big reason. Another reason for the change is the rising numbers. Right now, it looks like we're unfortunately in a trend upwards, and when I speak about there being a potential for change, we hope those numbers at some point go down and continue to trend down, but we also have to be prepared that they might trend upwards, and that's where we have to just be prepared for change. Just the growing recommendations from health experts on the importance of facial coverings. It seemed like over the last week or so that those recommendations continued to come to us, and we didn't feel like we could ignore them anymore. And finally, we think it's very important. I think Monroe County has done a very good job since the beginning of March. And so RBB wants to be more aligned with the other schools and school corporations in Monroe County. And for, Mr. President, for those reasons, this is why we're proposing the change to our reopening school plan tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, we welcome the visitors to come up with comments, and I'll ask Matt Irwin to identify the speaker.
Hopefully you guys can hear me here. If I call your name and you do not wish to speak any longer, just kind of wave me off and I'll know to move on to the next person. But the first person on the list was Caitlin Owens.
Do you want me to wear my mask while I speak?
No, you can stand right there at the exit phone.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Owens. It's been a minute since I've seen any of you. Glad to see all of you here. I wanted to start first with expressing gratitude when I saw the reopening plan with such amount of time before school started. I feel like that was a really good idea in getting it going, planning for the school year in advance. It allowed a lot of parents at home to kind of come up with an idea of what they're going to be doing, to read over some of the ideas that you guys have implemented. And I also wanted to express my gratitude for having a parent-heavy task force in the planning. It's always important to include the parents and that sort of thing, especially ones who have children in the school district. So I just wanted to say thank you. That was super wonderful. I also wanted to talk for a little bit on the differences in different households and the brilliance of the options that we have at hand. So RBB has allowed both an online virtual academy as well as in-person attendance, and I thought this was wonderful. Online, I've seen a couple different back and forths with different families. There's one wonderful family who has a really difficult time right now trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do for the upcoming school year. And I had made a comment on her post like, in my family, this is actually an answered prayer for us because it allows us an option to be more fluid with our own family at home, as well as traveling back and forth between two separate families for our oldest child. So again, I think that that has been wonderful. No family is gonna be able to make everything work in every instance, and there's no way to make everyone happy, but I feel like allowing both options has really given the families an opportunity to pick and decide what really works for them, and you let that plan be known in advance. So for families that are looking to do the online academy, they've had plenty of time to prepare and think about childcare during the day or in the afternoons, or what's gonna work best with their schedule. So I just wanna say thank you very much for getting that plan out as soon as you did. I feel like there are a couple different areas, though, that may seem like it's going to continue to change throughout the school year. And I also want to commend that. It's like, just like Dr. Sanders said, there were already changes about the masks and facial coverings. RBB has a lot of students in one classroom. So there's going to be a lot of disagreements when children are in the classroom and have to wear a facial covering, or in the hallways have to wear a facial covering. Right now, though, with everything that's happening, not just in the US, but around the world with COVID-19, we can't please everyone when it comes to facial coverings. I do think in the classroom with the face shields, it shouldn't just be for the primary, so K through 2. I feel like there's going to be a lot of children, even in the intermediate school, that are going to have problems having their masks on. So I would ask to maybe reconsider the grade levels that are going to be allowed to take off their face masks during the classroom hours. I understand that funding for the...
3 minutes is up.
Oh, okay. That was my 3 minutes. Thank you.
I think I would like to let's give Caitlin a round of applause that she served overseas for a year. Good to have her back.
Thank you.
Could I please have a show of hands of how many are going to speak tonight? I'd like to change the amount of minutes to 5 minutes and give you a couple more minutes, and so everyone could have, if we had 100 people, it would be different, but I would,
Call, Mr. President.
we'll change it to 5 minutes for tonight.
Okay, thank you. So what I was saying is, I understand that funding for the plastic coverings, what did you call them? I'm sorry.
Desk shields?
Yes, the shields. Could be a potential issue with maybe looking at the different grades. I don't know where that funding's coming from. I haven't been to previous board meetings, and I wasn't on the planning committee for it. But I would be willing to donate money in dollars. I don't have children in those grades, but I feel like a lot of the community members might consider that a really good option. If it's something that we can donate as a group and have the school board vote on it, if that might be a way to allow the older kids in the intermediate school an opportunity to not have to wear their masks during the school hour, which would be the most optimal time for them to learn is with their teachers, social distancing with the face shields on. I feel that would be a really important step, and I think that it might also appease a lot more families. So I feel like if we could maybe put some feelers out there and see how many community members might want to donate to do that, that would be a really good option for our community. And I personally would donate to that. Thank you.
Very much.
The next person I have on the list is Rachel Knight.
Hi, I'm Rachel Knight. I have a kindergartner starting this fall, and I first wanted to thank everyone who's put this together. A lot of my concerns were put at ease, and I can tell there was a lot of thought and effort and time and energy that have been put into it. A few of my concerns really revolved more around the younger children, for obvious reasons. I want to make sure that they have a good experience with learning to be social with other kids. I know that there's a lot of things that play into that's going to be different, but I'm concerned with the amount of play and the interactions that they're going to be able to have with each other, the hands-on experience specifically, because there are a majority of people learn that way. And without being able to be so close to each other, and I understand we still need to have that distance, but finding a way that we can maybe brainstorm together as parents and as a community to allow that to happen, I think would be better. I also am concerned with if one child is tested positive for COVID, then the entire class has to be quarantined. And it's my understanding that if then another of that same classroom, another child of that same classroom tests positive 5 days later, the quarantine then restarts from that time period. What are we going to do with those kids out of class? Is there a plan set in place? And if not, I hope that we are working together with parents and as a school board to figure out what the best option is for that. And the uncertainty of that, I think, is going to cause a lot of issues for children in their capacity and just the anxiety levels. We already have a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that with what had happened, and I don't want us to go back to that panic mode and that survival mode. I think it would be best if we had a set plan in place, or a couple plans in place, or A, B, and C, of what we could do for that. And I so far didn't seem to see that there was a plan set out for that yet. So I'd like to see more of that. I also am concerned with the accessibility to our children. I, being new, don't know anyone there. I'm very uncomfortable sending my child back across doors, across closed doors, and I know that these teachers are good people. But some things happen, and parents don't have access to their children. And something I loved about RBBCSC is the involvement that parents were allowed to have in these classrooms. And I have a hard time understanding why, if our children are home with us, we're exposed to what they're exposed to, how it would be different if we are still in the classroom, taking the extra precautions, wearing gloves, wearing masks, whatever. I, as a parent, honestly would be willing to wear whatever you wanted me to. I'd wear a hazmat suit if I could be in there learning with my children and playing with them and getting to know their friends and getting to know their parents, because that is part of our community. I am an introvert. I have social anxiety. I love being able to go and meet other people's parents because it's the only way that I can, and build my child and help him learn how to overcome those anxieties, because this is what COVID has done to a lot of families. I think this is a great opportunity for
The recording has started. This session is no longer being recorded.
Good.
Timing.
You can tell I'm very emotional about it because I've loved the idea and the ability to have our community come together and grow and learn from this, and also to teach our children that hard things happen in our life, but we can rely on each other to overcome it. We can rely to adapt. And I feel that we are so afraid of being close that it is going to severely alter our children's abilities to adapt later in life. We have an opportunity, and I think our community is one of the best communities to be able to overcome that and show the rest of the world that we survived this. And not only did we survive it, but we thrived in it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is Lauren Smith.
You're very hard to follow.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm on the completely opposite side. I'm a senior this year, and so I wanted to start by thanking this team. So I saw a lot of negativity out there, and so this is why I came, because the plan was thorough and thoughtful, and the communication's been amazing, and so I really appreciate that. It's clear you can't please anyone, but I think you guys presented some great options, and, I think that they allow each family to identify the unique risks and pick something. So I was planning to say I encourage the school board to approve the plan exactly as is. I do want to echo, though, that I think even at the older grade seniors, that being in a mask all day may be a little difficult. So if there is a possibility for social distancing in the classroom, mine specifically is in a lot of very small classes. If they really can spread out and the teachers are comfortable, I'd love the teachers to have the options to allow them to maybe take their mask off for a little bit longer break. If it's the comfort level of the teacher. Completely agree. If teachers are uncomfortable, that should be their choice, because they have to be in the classroom. They don't have that option. But it would be great if we could give the teachers the choice if social distancing is possible. And that's really all I have to say. I just want to come and say thank you. So.
Thank you very much.
Amanda Duncan.
Can you hear me okay? I'll try to speak up. Sometimes when I talk, I get a little loud, so I'm not
I'll try to speak up so you can hear me, but not be too loud to where you think I'm yelling at you. So my son will be going into 6th grade. I wrote this down. Let's see if I'm prepared. Anyway, my son will be going into 6th grade. For the past 6 years, I have paid out-of-county tuition for him to actually attend Edgewood. He's also been an athlete in the RBB sports programs. My time, my money has been invested into the school system. I have volunteered at school functions. My business actually supports sports teams for your RBB sports. I've donated supplies to each and every teacher that my son has been a part of. I'm pretty active. I may not come to board meetings, but I'm active for him, you know. But because of the mask mandating, I'm evaluating my enrollment for my son this upcoming year. So the county where we reside are not making masks mandatory, but optional and at the discretion of the parents, which I think is important, having it be the discretion of the parents. They recognize the detriment that these masks will put onto our students' health and their education. And because they are forcing the students to be exposed to this toxic CO2 levels that will cause long-term health effects because of a virus that has a 98% survival rating, my decision is very highly swayed to move his education back to our county. To put this in perspective for you guys, my tax dollars are going into a school system that my son hasn't even ever attended. I've paid extra money for him to continue the friendships that he has gained over the past 6 years and for him to stay with the same group of people that have nurtured his education for his entire elementary life. I support precautionary measures to protect the teachers, since it's not the students that necessarily need protected from this virus. However, masks will not stop the virus, but COVID disappearing wasn't never the point of precautions anyway. It was to flatten the curve so hospitals could not be overrun. Well, guess what, guys? Our hospitals are under capacity. Based on today's positive cases and the 2019 state census, only 1% total of our population have been tested positive for the virus. 1%. This includes those that have already recovered. The CDC has the hospitalization rate at a 0.1% due to influenza-like illness and COVID together. This is right on their front page of their website. The majority of those hospitalized and deceased are over the age of 65. Their website states, for children 0 to 17 years, COVID-19 hospitalization rates are much lower than influenza hospitalization rates at a comparable time points. Again, front page. So I'm just curious as to why our students are being punished for a 0.1% hospitalization rate and a 1% positive rate. Whoever feels that they need to wear a mask, please let them. Please encourage them to do so. But don't push a mandatory agenda so that others don't have a choice. Me, I work full-time. My husband works full-time. An online option is not an option for my son. We don't get home till 6:30. We have showers. We have dinner. I don't have that option to provide that for him. So I just ask you to let the students please learn without any distractions and let the long-term effects of CO2 toxins not be an issue. Let them play and gain lifelong friendships. Let them learn good sportsmanship. Let them grow. Don't stunt their mental and educational well-being for something that has an almost zero possibility of harming them. There is so much more to public school than education. They need to be able to socialize. They need to learn teamwork. They need to learn support, kindness, communication. Just please consider all of the consequences that this mandate will have on them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What county do you reside in?
Owen.
Next is Jordan Neuenfeld.
All right, guys. Let me just preface to say that I do have a folder here of resources that I would love to give you guys for you to be able to review and look over if you would be willing to accept it. This is your copies. I have copies at home myself. So if you would like to look that over, it's pretty much in order to my speech today. My name is Jordan Neuenfeld. I am a mother of 3 children attending RBB this year. As of today, Monroe County has had 300 active cases of COVID-19 out of over 8,600 being tested in a county of 150,000, resulting in 28 deaths. Of those 28 deaths that have happened in Monroe County, 26 of them came from nursing homes, which shows that the data, that means only 2 people under the age of 80 have contracted COVID-19 and actually died from it. Those people are aged over 59 and had underlying health conditions. Literally no one under the age of 59 in Monroe County has contracted COVID-19 and died from it. Monroe County has had zero data show that minors contract or transmit COVID-19. Yet masks of any kind, including the proven to not work cloth mask by the CDC, will be required in schools without option. So let's talk masks for just a second. OSHA has set a carbon dioxide limit of 1,100 parts per million for an environment to be deemed safe. At 2,000 parts per million, headaches, decreasing brain function, long-term damage begins. According to OSHA and their PPE experts, in determining what is law for a working environment tested with an OSHA-approved device at the source of inhalation, i.e. the mouth. Studies using this method have shown it takes only 30 seconds with average breathing for a person to reach toxic levels of 8,000 parts per million underneath that mask in 30 seconds. Hence why OSHA requires a medical release form for people to even be able to wear an N95 mask, which again the CDC said is the only mask to actually protect against airborne particles for COVID. But somehow people still think, well, we'll choose this cloth mask. But those same studies also showed that the cloth mask has people inhaling toxic levels of CO2 in under a minute. Same goes with surgical masks. Yes, that means children too, which means a child wearing a mask that their mother made begins rebreathing back in the carbon dioxide that they have breathed out and begin reaching toxic levels within a minute. And studies have come out trying to debunk this, which is again why I included this folder, because I have studies all the way back from 1993 from hospitals and then working with their surgeons, trying to figure out a way to help them last longer in surgery and to not become out of breath and to not get headaches. This isn't just a COVID thing. This is a common thing when people regarding masks. That's why OSHA requires a medical release form for most people to even be able to wear it. Thus, forcing masks without any consideration for children's or your employees' medical history, I see as being unconstitutional and violating regulations against OSHA and the ADA. The data from Monroe County shows again, 26 of the 28 deaths came from nursing homes. We have failed them. The issues do not lie in our schools. Even globally, it is showing that the issues are not in the schools. Schools are reopening all over the world. I mean, multiple senators have come out and shown this, trying to push for schools to even reopen. I mean, we're seeing that these mass gatherings are happening, and yes, the numbers are increasing, but the death rate is going down. We're slowly getting herd immunity. That's why we're slowly getting back to reopening stages. But honestly, the severity of contracting COVID, if you are under the age of 80, does not outweigh the guaranteed risk of continuing to rebreathe back in the carbon dioxide that you are exhaling. Indiana is an OSHA state. I definitely think we should consider these guidelines if we're going to be implementing proper protective equipment and the hazards that come with it. I'll be honest, my children will not voluntarily suscept themselves to rebreathing carbon dioxide. I won't allow them to wear a mask. Obviously everyone has their own concerns and reasons on why they would or wouldn't want their child to wear a mask, and I don't need to bother you with my specific child's medical reasons, but I just can't. Even with the optionals or the ability to take it off, I will not be sending my child with a mask. They will not put it on their face. 98% survival rate is what COVID-19 is looking around globally. And multiple studies, again, in this folder that I'm going to give you, are showing that it really does not affect children as much. So our biggest things on who we need to protect are those over the age of 59. And why are we not implementing procedures in order to protect them instead of stopping children from being able to just be kids and have a normal school life? If you want people to wear masks or they want to wear masks, I don't want to take that away from anybody. I want people to wear all the protective equipment they want. I just don't want it forced upon me or myself. Masks should be made optional. It should be made to the parent's discretion, because all of RBB CSC have a right to not only a good education, but a working environment where we feel like our personal choices and our own health care and safety are not being infringed upon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to have this, or I'll just...
If you could leave it there, please.
Perfect. I'm going to leave it
That'd be
right
great. Thank you.
Becca Anderson?
Hello, my name is Becca Anderson. I am an Edgewood alumni. I am a mother of 4. I have a unique situation because I have a high schooler, a junior high schooler, a kindergartner, and a preschooler. If y'all could say a prayer for me. Now, what I wish I had done to prove my point this evening is bring my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old with me to this meeting tonight and try to put a mask on them and try to convince them to stay 6 feet away from everybody in this room. I agree with everything everyone has said tonight, that you all have done a phenomenal job given really difficult circumstances to live under. All of us have lived under very difficult circumstances. Very difficult guidelines put out by the CDC that I and many others laughed at when we read it. I was embarrassed to see what the CDC thought children would be able to do in a school setting. I felt like none of them have ever been in a school. So I realize that your decisions are being based on those guidelines and that your decisions have to meet everyone's needs. But I am very concerned about the mental state of my children at this point. And I fear that their mental and emotional health is going to continue, especially, I'm devastated to hear that you have implemented a mask policy that includes masks all day. I was willing to have my freshman and my 7th grader wear a mask under the parameters that you originally put out in your plan. My husband and I will have to very seriously reconsider that. I do not agree with that at all, and I very much, you said what I wanted to say, so thank you for that. Now, let's talk about my kindergartner and my preschooler. How many of you have had small children in your lives before? I know all of you have. I don't know how anyone is ever going to expect that age group to stay 6 feet apart from one another. And I pray that the way that the proposal sounds is extremely rigid. And I had a great conversation with Dr. Sanders this morning, and he assured me that, you all will do an excellent job, our teachers will do an excellent job of making sure that that age group is taken care of. But I had my 7th grader, when I dropped her off as a 3-year-old in preschool at EECC, up until she was in the middle of 1st grade, she cried for me every single day that I dropped that child off. I feel like these guidelines are not taking into consideration the very delicate preschoolers and kindergartners and younger EPS grades that many of the older kids are going to be able to handle well. But you're going to I feel we are creating a very large amount of mental and emotional problems for our children in that age group that will far outweigh any physical benefit that social distancing, wearing masks, as the speaker before me said, there are numerous studies that show that children of that age group are not impacted by COVID-19. It's not something that they're getting sick with or they are even becoming carriers of. There are so many studies out there that I hope that you read from the literature that she gave. So I'm just asking for some reconsideration of especially those younger grades. We are considering taking, especially now to know what the new mask policy is, our family is very seriously considering going to a different school district and or homeschooling. Not sure, with so many different ages, you have a lot to think about. So anyway, thank you for your time, your consideration. I do support you 100%. I know that you have, and you are in my prayers because I know that you have a lot on your plate right now, and I appreciate, I'm sure anyone else can say that we appreciate you allowing us to share our voices with you this evening. So thank you.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you very much.
Make sure I read this name right. I'm trying here. Brittany Page. I believe I said that correct. All right. Maybe I said it wrong. I'm not sure. All right. That's all we have.
That name didn't match. Was there somebody else's name that put it on there that was them and it was just messed up? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments and the support of our parents. And it's a very difficult time, and it's very difficult decisions that have to be made. So thank you for taking the time to come tonight and express your opinions to us. Appreciate that. So now we'll move past the visitor comments to consideration to approve the return to athletics and band plans. So, Dr. Sanders.
Yes, so one of my favorite times of the year is the summer when I start seeing students show up and the percussion group usually is playing right outside my office window, which you would think that would be something that would bother you, but pardon the pun, it's music to my ears because having students around is what it's all about. So when they start showing up, I get excited about the school year. So we have our athletics that is starting, and we also have band that is starting. So I would like to first ask Mr. Aaron Wells to come up and talk a little bit about, Mr. Wells, there he is, talk a little bit about the plan for starting band. And Mr. Wells is coming from working with the kids. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I apologize for my attire. I don't normally come to school board meetings in a cat shirt and shorts, so I did get the phone call like 3:30 this afternoon that I was presenting for you, and I was like, okay, I didn't have a chance to go home. So we did start this afternoon with very small groups, our color guard, and our drum line. As a matter of fact, Dr. Sanders, they're right next to your window where they normally go. So because I knew that that's the one thing that you like. So when Tim came in, I said, put him right next to Dr. Sanders. He loves that. So I've had a lot of good help. Actually, Mrs. Buell, Mrs. Melissa Buell, and myself and Mrs. Taft sat down last week to go through the guidelines that was given to me from Mick and the coaches a couple weeks ago when we sat down through IHSAA and through all of the Indiana Department of Education. We took all of the information we got there and we put together our plan, and I hope Dr. Sanders did say that you guys had it in front of you. The big ones that we did ask is that anytime that we are not participating in playing a musical instrument, we're going to be masked. And I asked the kids to do that just so that we're kind of getting in the habit to use that. We haven't had much kickback from that. We did have a couple kids that really, they were kind of a little upset about it, but then I said, well, I have to wear it too, and that means I'm going to talk less. And so they were a little bit more proactive in going, okay, well, this is a good idea then. So we did start with the mask. We also started with, the way in which we come in and get our equipment out. Most equipment that has to stay in the room, there's a plan for how the kid comes in and gets it. They come in through entrance 1, they grab their equipment, they go right out through the back door, and there's no stop and socialization. There's no, hanging out and fraternizing. There's just getting their stuff and going, and keeping, their equipment to themselves and keeping it in, spaces where they can keep it from being contaminated. We adhered to the rehearsal hours and the facility hours for this opening phase, and opened up, making sure that they all have hand sanitizer on them, on their person at all times, and that they're available to have a mask. And the boosters did a great job of purchasing the first sets of masks, and they were given their first set tonight, just so that we can keep the precautions of not passing on if there's anybody affected. We also went to, as I'm sure Mr. Hammett will talk about, there's a Google survey that kids have to check every day before they come to practice to make sure if they've shown any symptoms, they'll have to fill that out and send that to me, and I'll keep record of the students that are there who's filled that out, so we can keep track if anyone is showing symptoms. And then we have protocol in our write-up on what how we're going to handle if a student does show a symptom. We'll definitely automatically quarantine them, contact the parent, and they will be sent home. So I know you probably just got that right before the meeting, probably didn't have a chance to kind of go through it, but if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
Questions?
Mr. Wells?
Yes, sir.
I was just curious, has ISMA as a organization, are they going to continue on to have the band competition?
Yes.
That is the plan as of today?
Yeah, as of right now, both Music for All, which is the national competition that's held in Indianapolis that we go to in late October, and ISMA, they're full. Everything is going forward as planned. They did cancel a couple of their contests that they had in early August, but most of the ISMA events don't happen until October, so they're still kind of staying proactive and they're trying to be, positive that by that time there's a lot more, a lot more things settled down, a lot more things in place in security, reasons. So we, as of right now, we're moving forward as is. This is going to happen. It's just we have a couple different, we have a couple different pieces of equipment this year than we've had normal, and we have to handle a couple, obviously in and out of the school a little bit different than normal. And my kids have been great. My parents have been great, and we've been very, I've been very upfront with them that this is new. This is a new time for everybody, and they're just going to have to be patient, and we have to work through this together. So, ISMA and Music for All have made their statements, and they, they're saying that as of right now, they're going to move. They're still moving forward. Obviously that could change if school starts and numbers spike again. And we all understand that. I mean, we were right in the middle of our winter percussion season when all of this started, and we thought, we're going to just miss a couple weeks, and then, our season was canceled. So, we already have kids that have kind of worked through that, and we've made preparations if that's the case. My parents do know that if that's the case and it does cancel, then here's what our preparations are for that. So we're hoping that everything stays well and level. So
Like all the invitations prior to?
Invitations prior to that, right?
Have those all been kind of postponed up through there?
No. I mean, I actually just got an email today asking about, where we're going September 19th. And I have not, nor will I probably apply for those until middle of August to kind of see like what the climate is once school starts. I mean, that's obviously going to be a big hurdle. Like what is going to happen when we all get back together? And I want to wait, and my parents know that, like, when I talked to them in our last Zoom meeting, that, that's kind of how I'm attacking things. I'm going to kind of wait. The next big hurdle is what is going to happen when school starts, and that will kind of dictate, when or where we start our season.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Wells?
No.
Okay, Mr. Hammett, would you like to come up and talk about the athletic plan?
Mr. Wells, you're free to go out to your students out there in the storm.
Is that thunder?
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the windows are down, but my car really needs water, so I'm really excited.
Well, we made our plan, and it's evolved a little bit. When the in-class sent that out about a month ago, the Appendix C was for the athletics and things, and that's what we started with. And in our document, which is on our athletic website, we have that in the back of it, the Appendix C from the in-class document. But, our things, we're being maybe a little bit more strict than what they've asked, and we've used a couple other schools that had their documents together early and guided from those and tried to form ours. A couple things that we've been a little more stricter than other schools is that we're not going to allow our teams to travel to scrimmage or practice with other schools, which they would be allowed to after July 20th, but we're going to leave them here on campus. And we're not going to host any youth camps. So we are being a little stricter than others on that. Our coaches are going to be very adamant about keeping everything clean. I've let all of them have antiseptic wipes, and they have the pump things for the kids. Kids are supposed to come every day with clean clothes. If not, they're supposed to be sent home. We're having them answer the questions that Mr. Wells mentioned, those were the things of concern that was in the in-class document. And we set it up so each coach will have a spreadsheet, so when the kid, the athlete or his band member will go through and answer those questions and hit submit, it will go right to the spreadsheet, right to the coach. So they'll be able to tell if they answer yes to any of the questions, it'll come up in red, so it will automatically, it'll be easy for the people to recognize that. And those students right now will be asked to stay home until they're better. You know, we've consulted with Penny Caudill, the Monroe County Health Officer, and like you guys have, we've changed the document, you know, and there will be things that we update as more information is brought forward.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to recommend that the board approve both the athletic and the band plans as presented.
Entertain a motion for
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I think that we're just going to have to do the best we can with these plans. You know, it's going to be fluid-like. Things are going to ever change. I mean, it can change tomorrow. And that's something that we have to consider. So I think, you know, right now we're doing the best we can with the information that we have in order to move forward with our opening our school this year. So.
Well, I just want to thank Mr. Hammett for coming back to work yesterday. He's been loafing all summer, so I'm joking, Mr. Hammett. But honestly, there's so much work that's been going on over the last 3 to 4 weeks by everybody behind the scenes trying to figure out what to do next. As Ms. Jacobs said, it's just going to be an ongoing process. There's so many different splinters that could erupt from this. So wish you guys the best and the band as well.
One thing I had contemplated was whether or not we should possibly have the students that participate have to sign some sort of agreement that they understand the severity of the issue and that they will be sure that they honor all requirements that are for them. I even contemplated whether we should have the parents of the students, any student under the age of 18, I guess, also sign off that they approve of their child being in these extracurricular activities. I don't know. Could you come to the mic? I'm sorry.
The IHSAA and the smart people up at the governor's office got together and they decided that anybody who hadn't had a concussion or any type of severe injury from last year didn't have to get a physical this year. But everybody has to fill out a health questionnaire, and it mentions all that. That's part of the questionnaire about the COVID. Have you been around anybody who's had it? And it's part of those same questions that we've had. So that is part of what every parent and student athlete has to sign off on.
So the parents have to sign
Yes, yes. And one thing, right now, all of this right now, I know some parents are uneasy. Right now until August 3rd, it is voluntary. You know, I know the coaches want their kids to be there so they're in tip-top shape and everything else, but it's voluntary, and if a parent is uneasy about that at this point, I mean, they can keep their kid at home. But I mean, there will come a point where they'll need to come, and that's August 3rd. But, you know, for people like that, as we know, it is ever-changing, and they have that option now, and the coaches will, send home the workout, here's what you need to do, and the kids can do the best they can in the driveway or whatever, for the time being.
One more question, Mr. Hammond. Now, this is just for the high school, right? We're not, junior high is not.
We're junior high, we're waiting till July 20th for them to start. And we're easing into this where statewide, they are allowing all sports. You're allowed 15 hours a week, but for any one particular sport, you can, it's 14 max. So if two sports were sharing, it'd be 15 for that student. But right now, we are not allowing our winter and spring people to come in. We're wanting to ease into it, use the utmost care, and not have our building, overtaxed with everybody coming in it, with basketball and baseball. But just the fall sports right now are active. So we're kind of easing into it, making sure we keep everybody clean and not go too crazy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. I think there's a lot of work in that.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve both the band plan and the athletics plan for reopening as they are. And so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And the motion carries 4-0. Any thanks to Mr. Hammond and Mr. Wells. And I do know that they sought a lot of advice and looked at a lot of plans, and really appreciate the hard work that they put in. And it's difficult times, and I think taking a little bit easier approach and easing into it is a good way to go. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for letting me know about what they have to go through this year. Okay, that having passed, the next order of business is consideration to approve the reopening school plans. So, Dr. Sanders?
Yes. First of all, I just want to thank all those who spoke tonight. It revealed to me and gave me great confidence to know what a great RBB family we have, that in situations like the one we're all living under right now, that we can come to a meeting and share our differing views in positive ways. I just want to say thank you very much for that. And this plan that the board's approving tonight, it's called a reopening plan for a reason. It's about reopening school. And as I've mentioned already, this plan should be considered to be a living document. So some of the things that the public spoke about tonight are the very same issues that we debated over and over again. And what you shared tonight, I wrote down the key points that everybody said. And we can't predict the future, but as we do move forward, and this document does evolve, some of the things that you shared tonight will definitely be considered as we move forward. And as I told Becca this morning, I won't lie to you, it's very sad for me to hear about anyone leaving RBB. I mean, you think about nearly 2,700 students. When I think of one leaving, it just caused me a lot of anxiousness. but I understand. Parents, you're great parents, and you're going to do, even though it hurts, and even though it sometimes is a hard decision, as a parent, you do what you know is best for your child. So I hope those who are thinking about leaving, I hope with all of my heart that you stay. But we will understand if you end up leaving. And the first day this thing's over, I hope you're back. And we'll love you just as much. So I'm just going to go through, I'm not going to go through each detail of the plan. You've had a chance to look it over. The board has, I had created well, I call it a PowerPoint, but the new term, I guess, is slide deck or something like that. But I was going to have that presented tonight, but given the format that we're in, I didn't think everybody would be able to read everything. So I just want to share a little bit the highlights of my presentation with the board and with all of you. We did put a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of debate into this, and we used a lot of guidance from the health experts. We were regular participants in the weekly and then every other week presentations from our state superintendent, Dr. McCormick. I was part of a Monroe County, had a coalition that had weekly Zoom meetings, and I was a part of that every week. I'm in a network of about a dozen or so other school corporations, mainly to the west of us, that we had weekly, and then every other week conference calls with other superintendents, and they're all going through the same thing that we're going through. This is all brand new to everyone. And so with every step that we take, it's uncharted territory. But from day one, I go back to right before spring break, we were conversing with Penny Cottle with the Monroe County Health Department, and Dr. Briggs down at Spencer Owen, and with MCC. And throughout this whole time, I've received a lot of different information, conflicting data at times, and trying to make sense of it. And, you know, someone in my position, I don't have time to really go and validate every piece of data that I receive. So, in fact, my whole career, I learned a long time ago to trust in the experts. And so that's what we've done. So we've every step of the way, every plan we've implemented, we have worked through the Monroe County Health Department. Now they don't approve our plan, but we send it to them, and they will make recommendations of, well, you might want to do this, you might want to change that, and they make it the best possible plan that we can have. We had a task force that had obviously principals, but also teachers and parents. Angie Jacobs actually she had three different hats on for being a school board member, a parent, and a nurse. And so we had a physician's assistant and I think another nurse, and just different people from the community who looked over our plans and gave us some direction and guidance. One thing that RBB did that a lot of other school corporations did not do, and that's to send out a survey to our parents. And it would have been the easy route to not send out a survey. But, you know, I think parents, I've always believed parents are our partners in education. And so I needed to hear, I know our principals agreed, we needed to hear what our parents were thinking. And so that's why we sent out the survey. We were going to definitely let the health experts guide us, but even after that guidance, there was still room for options. And so that's why we did the survey, to help us to make our decisions. So in the plan, as you know, we're trying to recognize that when school starts, I know, I've known all along that we're going to have some parents who feel very comfortable to send their kids to school. They'd send them today if they could. To the other end of the spectrum, where it really doesn't matter what we do, they just don't feel like it's safe to send their kids to school. And so we wanted to present options to our parents that would cover as much of that spectrum as possible. And not to say anything about online learning or virtual schools, but there's nothing better like a student being in a classroom with their teacher right in front of them. That's what we're all after. And we want to get there as efficiently and as safe as possible. So a lot of the safety measures that we're putting into place, we're doing that with the bottom line of keeping kids in school as much as possible. And so we're giving our parents two options, the in-school options with the safety measures that we've shared in our plan, and I'll get to those in a second. And the second option would be, we're calling it the Virtual School Academy, that it's different than e-learning, and it's different at the different levels. The Virtual School Academy for grades K to 5 will involve having grade level support teachers and a virtual school teacher. And so the virtual school teacher, they will not actually have students in their classroom. The virtual school teacher will be solely devoted to their online students. But we also wanted the touch of an RBB student teacher, so we have the grade level support teachers. So if you're a grade level support teacher, then you're agreeing to somebody coming in and recording the lesson that you're teaching to your students who are physically in the classroom. That support teacher doesn't have to worry about setting up the camera. They just teach, and then the virtual school teacher will have them recorded. And then the virtual school teacher will take the materials that support teacher has put together for their own lessons, and the actual lesson and the recording, and they'll build that all into a package that then we'll send out to the virtual student. And then the virtual teacher then will be the one who will grade the assignments and grade the assessments and work with that student. There may be individual Zoom meetings where that particular student needs some extra help or doesn't understand a concept, where they'll work individually with those teachers. And it'll track along with the other students who are physically here at school. So that in December, when the teachers decide, or the parents might decide, hey, I think it's safe enough for my child to return back to in school, they will be on the same page with their fellow students. Virtual School Academy for grades 6 to 12 will be using a program called APEX. Now, we're familiar with APEX. We use APEX for summer school. And it's like a credit recovery program. That's how it's used in summer school. And we also use it in our alternative school. And a program like APEX, the student, it's self-paced. So they just go through a course. And as they progress through the course, let's say they get to a point in the course where something they don't understand. Well, we will have, this is where RBB is going to another level. It's not just, here's APEX, you're on your own. It's, here's APEX, and as the students are working through their different courses, there will be an instructional assistant or a support teacher who will be there to provide assistance if they need to along the way. They can progress at their own speed, and so they could go through a course as quick or as slow as they want to, as long as they finish it by the end of the grade period, of course. A lot of people have asked, well, what happens if we have to close school? So we have students in virtual school, we have students who are in school. What happens if we have to close down the whole corporation? God forbid that happens, but what would we do? Well, the virtual school students would continue right along with the plan that they have. We would have the in-school students. They would pick up on the e-learning concept, but a much improved e-learning concept, okay? So our goal after we got past this point where we're developing this reopening school plan, and we're here tonight, we get it approved, then our next course of action is start to work on these different, the details more of what improvements are we going to make to e-learning, and how can we deliver that in a more effective way. So that's kind of basically the delivery of instruction that we're going to be utilizing. So when registration opens up, and initially we said tomorrow, July 7th, but with the change in our plans of requiring masks, I want to give parents a little bit more time. So we're going to wait till Friday, July 10th, to open up that registration window. But when parents go in to register the students like they do every year, this year they'll have a choice, and they'll just click on in school, or they will click on the virtual school option. If they click on in school, then they will also have other options to choose in terms of transportation. And we're asking parents to make a choice between school bus transportation or bringing their child to school. And in the plan, I'm not going to really go through it tonight, but in the plan it gives parents options of when to bring their kids to school also. And we understand that sometimes when you put a plan together like this one, it doesn't always fit everybody. And so we would just encourage those parents to contact the school, and we can make some adjustments at that point. In our plan, you'll see an area for special education where we address that, and Mrs. Anderson, Jennifer Anderson, is here tonight, and she will be working very closely with families and schools, whatever option that they choose, to make sure that their IEPs are continue to be followed. We, as most people know, we've really worked hard over the last year and a half to improve mental health support for our students. And that doesn't go away, even though they might be a virtual school student. We'll still have social emotional learning and mental health support for all of our students. I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out tonight, and feel free to ask me any questions, but the safety measures that we have in place, like I said earlier, the whole idea is not to be restrictive. Everyone has to understand a teacher's nature. Okay, so the primary, the preschool teacher and the kindergarten teacher, when we think about wearing masks, those teachers are going to be so gentle with those students, and they're going to ease into that mask, facial covering, and it's not going to be perfect the first few weeks. We're going to ease into it, and we're going to be gentle with the students. And this past weekend, my wife and I went down to Madison, Indiana, and I saw, we were all stressing about, how it's going to look with children wearing masks. And I went down there, and I just happened to notice a lot of this little children wearing the masks and just running around like it was nothing, and putting it on like they were putting on their shoes, and that gave me some encouragement that maybe it won't be so bad as what we're thinking, and that kids are so adaptable and brilliant, and a lot of times as parents we worry more than we need to. But we have these safety measures in place because we want to, like I said, keep kids in school as much as possible. And so we've done some work with our scheduling. We've put hand sanitizer dispensers in every classroom. We have our special teachers at the elementary going to the classroom. We're doing lunch a little bit different. We're increasing recess to give them more time to get out and get some exercise. And as I mentioned earlier about the masks and what we're going to be doing there, maybe I'm a little idealistic, board, but I really want this plan to be something that we can make it fluid and flexible for the changing situation. And I'm hoping that the school community will just continue to work with us and allow us and trust in us to make the changes that we need to make as we move along. That if we have to have stricter safety measures, that the community will support us doing that. If we decide that the situation changes and we can ease up on some of the safety measures, to trust us to be able to do what's right for kids, like we have done any other time before we ever heard of COVID. That we have parents in the community, they've trusted us during floods and tornadoes, and unfortunately when we've had threats, they've trusted us to take care of their children, and this is no different, and we're going to continue to work on this. So in the plan, it talks about some guidelines in terms of what happens if somebody's tested positive, what happens if somebody has symptoms. So I know that you've read all that. The real big thing that we really have to think about when we're talking about keeping kids in school as much as possible is this idea of contact tracing. And so this is why we're having assigned seats, even on the school bus. And this is why we're trying as much as possible, still maintaining as much normalcy as possible, but trying to limit as much interaction as possible. So in the, hopefully no one has this happen, but a student or staff or somebody in their family is tested positive for COVID, then the better we are in implementing this plan, then the less contract tracing they will have to do, and the greater chances we have of keeping our school open. If we do a really great job, then there's a chance that we might just be able to close one school or even one section of a school instead of the whole school corporation. Now, that's going to be very fluid, and I can't predict that, and when the situation comes up, we will be looking at we'll be working with the health department, and they'll be doing the contact tracing, and they will be giving us some guidance on what they feel like we can do to keep schools open. So those are some of the reasons why we're implementing the safety measures. It's not any fun. Nobody wants to wear masks. Nobody wants to enforce the limitations that we're going to have to enforce. But it's all designed to keep students and staff safe. It's all designed to try to get kids back, and staff, all of us, back to normalcy as quickly and as efficiently as safely as possible. So I'm going to stop there because I know you've read the plan and we've talked about it and individually. And so what questions do you have? And our principals are here tonight, and Mr. Ackerman is out of town and he's on the conference call. So if you have any questions for them, you're not only improving the corporation plan, but you also have before you each school's plan. And so what questions do you have tonight?
Let's officially get it on the table. Do we have, entertain a motion for approval of the reopening school plan for the corporation and
I will
each
move
school?
approval.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Any questions for Dr. Sanders or any of our principals?
Just to thank you for all he's done for us. I think we need to realize, and what he said and what Angie said, this is a work in progress. We're going to have to be very flexible, and the teachers will work with you. I know all of them personally. I just think this is going to be a good plan for all of us. So.
Well, I just wanted to tell everyone that I was on the task force, and I am kind of unique in that I am a nurse and I have worked with COVID patients for months now. I've seen all levels from what it can do, how you can recover. I mean, all of that was brought to the table when we were on the task force. Jerry and I talked a lot about it. I'm a parent of a high schooler. I'm a parent of a junior high. And I get the concerns. I get the concerns of parents. I understand the concerns of small children. But again, number one, we have to listen to what our governor says. There's mandates that he's going to put down that's going to change. We have to follow those rules. We have to look at the huge spectrum of it all, and that is, what if this scenario and what if that scenario? So you have to take in that total consideration of the whole corporation, and not, just a few. Everybody that has emailed us, that have spoken to us, that have texted us, you all have very valid concerns. Every one of your concerns is very valid. We just have a job to do, and that job is to make the best decision for the corporation. I know that some of our educators were very, very concerned We were just kind of learning of this here recently, and they have very valid concerns as well. We have to keep them safe. We have to keep them in the school corporation to teach our children. And so that was, for me, hearing those concerns from them. I was concerned about my child. One of my kiddos is one who is all boy, and he doesn't want to wear a mask, and he doesn't want to do this, but he's a rule follower, and that's just what we have to do for now. Understand that these can change. I mean, you know, we can go 1 to 2 weeks in, and our principals are starting to see differences in kids, and what do we need to do to flex to this? We have to be okay with that. We appreciate every one of you coming up and talking to us. I do. I've written every one of your names down. I listen to you very intently, and I'm going to be basing my vote on, you know, what I've heard and what I've been emailed and the concerns of the entire corporation. I appreciate you all.
A follow-up from Ms. Jacobs, and first of all, thanks to the parents tonight that spoke. And I talked to one of the parents before the meeting tonight, who's got, I didn't realize she had 4 kids. It's been busy. But she said, I appreciate what the task force had to do along with Dr. Sanders. They've got to try to make the best decision for 2,700 kids. And I, as a parent, have to make that decision for 3 kids. And I appreciate that. And it kind of resonated with me when you said that. And it's a tough situation, but we've got to work through it the best we can. I do have a couple questions, Dr. Sanders. On July 10th is when the enrollment starts. When is the deadline to enroll?
Right up to school starts.
So the fluidity, it could we still could adjust a little bit depending on how the enrollment goes as far as e-learning and
Well,
so forth.
we would like to encourage parents to register as early as possible so that we could plan. If we need to, if we can change some bus routes, if we can get an idea of how many virtual teachers will we need to get the job done. So, you know, we just like to encourage everybody to register as early as possible. That's why we moved it up this year, so that we can start working on August 5th.
I did see that the bus decision had to be made by September the 8th. So that gives some time to make some adjustments.
That's for the transportation.
Transportation,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, the first couple weeks of for our first month of school, that, you know, everybody's kind of working through their plans. They thought this plan would work, but it's not. And so we want to give them a little bit of a window of some flexibility. So these are semester-long commitments in terms of the transportation and for the delivery of instruction. Once again, we have to be able to be prepared, and when we are informed, we're better prepared.
All right. Thank you. Again, I know this has been a lot of work, and thanks to the task force and all the parents that participated with this. And as I told Dr. Sanders today, it's sometimes easier to start a little bit tighter, and then it's easier to, as things change, we might be able to loosen it up. But if you start off loose and then try to tighten it up later, it's going to be tougher. So I trust the administration and be supportive of all the bus drivers, support staff, and teachers and coaches, and support people as well, because it's going to be an interesting year. And we could do all this, and in 3 weeks it could be over. We could be back to Zoom learning. So I pray for those in the healthcare profession, and hopefully they can find a vaccine shortly.
Mr. President, one thing. In your vote, I would like the board to not just approve the plan, but give me the ability to make some changes to this plan as the need arises, because oftentimes life doesn't work according to our schedules, and And so I would like to be able to make some changes if needed. That's what's best for the school corporation. And that, as you all know, that if that was to happen, I would communicate with each and every one of you, and then we would ask for a formal vote at the next board meeting.
You made the original motion. Are you okay with that?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well. Because it is an ongoing
I second it.
process.
Yes, I'll second that again.
Okay. So that modification has become part of the original
Thank you.
by those. Gosh, had so much I wanted to say, and I try not to say too much, but a lot of the concerns tonight from the parents, are very understandable. I have 3 children who went through the system, and now my grandchildren are starting to go through this system. So it's really, I get it. And as far as being an involved parents, I mean, I was one of those involved parents too. And I know the concern about accessibility to the classroom and the students and the other parents. And I just want to say again, this is how we're starting, and we are starting tight. And I think that's what we need to do. I think that we do need to have flexibility, give Dr. Sanders flexibility to make amendments to the plan as things arise, because that's just it. We have, even though we know what our classrooms are like and what happens, there's going to be so many different individual situations that pop up that the plan doesn't cover. And so I trust Dr. Sanders and our administrators to adapt to those, to deal with those as they come about. And I'm really hoping that the accessibility to the classroom of the parents will be able to be opened as time goes on, and if things are moving well. I was hoping too back in March that this would be a 2-week thing and be out of our memories by now, but it's not. But things are looking good. I mean, there's been some areas where hot spots are coming back. There's other areas that's been doing very well. The studies that I've heard about and seen, and I will look through this information that's been provided tonight as well, but that what they're saying is mask work. That's not a consensus. I mean, there's people who disagree with that, but most of the authorities that we fall under believe in them at this time, and so I think it's better to start tight and then loosen up. I do want and will place on the agenda this topic every month until we reach some sort of normalcy, so that the board is kept up on what's going on and the public's being kept up that way. I will say that Dr. Sanders does communicate with the board very frequently. Every week we get a Friday update. If anything pops up during the week, we get a notification right away of what's going on, and appreciate that. So the board is kept pretty informed, and we have had this plan, as you have for a while, to be able to review. It's probably not going to be perfect. Again, there's going to be things that need to be changed. Giving Dr. Sanders flexibility to do that will help. Making it an agenda item every month at our regular meetings, I think might provide the community with some reassurance that we're not forgetting about things, that we're keeping up with it, but know that we're keeping up with it more than monthly. I think we did a great job at the end of the last school year, having to be closed. I think it was difficult. I think we were ahead of the curve with having done e-learning. I know e-learning wasn't perfect, by any stretch, but it was better than most. There were some who didn't even have it. We were able to at least either maintain for our younger grades where they were at, or in the higher grades continue to move forward. Our technology folks are excellent. They have been making sure to the best they can that students have accessibility. So I hope we don't get to that point again. And I know that we learned a lot from second semester last year. So I think we'll grow in that. The mask debate has been a big one, and I'll be happy to look through that information. One thing that we need to talk about, be recognized with mask, is that it's to protect others as much as it is to protect the individual. So with our teachers, our staff, administration, these individuals who are greater than the 0 to 17 range are in contact with these students. And also, I think I don't want to give for those who really, really want masks, I don't want to give the false impression that kids won't be kids. The kids are taught procedures, and the vast majority follow the procedures all the time, but there's always some who don't, and they have to be reminded, and whether it's to stay in line or whatever. So there's going to be, if you want your child to only be in school and have masks 100% of the time and everyone around them 100% of the time, it's probably not going to happen, because kids are kids and they'll take it off, they'll have to be reminded to put it on, and so on. I just came from a T-ball game, and we're all kind of developmental 3- and 4-year-olds, and they were doing a good job. Each one had a different area along the fence to put their stuff. There were designated places that they would stand and be spread out when they were in the field. But you hit a ball to them, and you have half a dozen kids running to one spot to get that ball. It's going to happen. So I don't want people to be fooled that, it can't. I mean, we'll do the best we can, but, it's reality. And part of that is, again, we can't plan for everything, so things will change. We have to think practically and deal with those as they come about. The big thing for me, though, is that the kids need to be in school. I know some parents want to choose the virtual option, and I'm glad we have that for them. And I think particularly in the younger grades, they need to be in the classroom. That's where they'll really learn. And so we'll do what we can to make sure that their kids are as safe as they possibly can be while they're in the classroom. But for learning to really take place, they need to be there. I would rather have them there with masks than not there at all. So we really need to have them. And I do hope, I think we all hope, that after a period of time, things are going well, we can ease things up. We can make it so the kids don't have to. Maybe they can interact more. I know kids that talked about the hands-on learning. They will still be doing some hands-on learning. They just won't be sharing that with the student next to them, but they will have things in their hands, the younger ones, manipulatives, things like that. They'll have access to those things. I've heard the teachers talking already about how they're going to do this and how they're going to do that to keep things in the kids' hands and so that they can learn that way. So our teachers are amazing. They're sorry. They are very creative. They love these kids, and they'll make sure that they're as safe as they can be. So I do encourage those of you who are on the fence to please send your kids to school. And I think RBB is the best place for them. I think we care. We really Said more than enough, so is there anything further from the board? Hearing none. A motion's been made to approve with the adoption of having, or amendment of having giving Dr. Sanders the flexibility to make changes as needed that he would bring to the next board meeting. I will tell the public if there's a big changes, we'll put a special meeting together. So that we can be sure to be out in front of things. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any board member that'd like to make a closing comment? Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to those who spoke to the board, and believe me, we listen. And so, and we'll keep listening. So with that, this meeting's adjourned.